Welcome. My name is Natasha Sherman, and I am your host. Anyone who has watched my show before knows that I am in awe and inspired by people who go through sometimes seemingly insurmountable challenges in life and then come out on the other side of it. And then there are so many people who it's not even insurmountable challenges, but just on a day-to-day basis continue to take their lives on and meet the challenges head on. So my guests today are two such women. I'd like you to help me welcome first Jennifer Powell. And Jennifer is the owner of Hairport's Wash and Blow Dry Bar. Welcome.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
I'm great and happy to have you here.
Thank you for having
And my
me.
other guest is Brittany Alfaro. She is a professional makeup artist, a single mom, and a singer.
Oh,
So I'm not letting you get away with keeping that in the background.
yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, Jennifer, I've heard your story before. It's quite incredible. So you grew up in New Jersey, yes?
I grew up in a small town, Roosevelt,
Yes.
started by Eleanor Roosevelt, and it was a small Jewish community, maybe 300 people.
Wow.
And I started kindergarten, graduated with the same 14 kids.
Wow.
That was our graduating class, was 14 in 8th grade, so it was really small.
Yes, and I can relate. I went to school in Canada, not quite that small group, but the same kids. So you went to school, got married at what age?
I got married later. I got married at about 32.
Okay.
And was married for I was married for 4 years total, but
Right.
we were together for about a year and a half.
Yeah. So at some point along the way, you told me that you weighed 325 pounds.
Correct.
And was this from a young age, or did this happen as you got older?
You know, I was always a larger girl. When I was in 8th grade, I was 125 pounds at 4'11", but I was big for the age of 12, but I was already a woman. I mean, I had already started my period at 9, so I was a grown woman, but the other kids in the class weren't as grown as I was, so I always did stand out as the bigger kid.
Right.
That's what I was classified as, the bigger kid.
Yeah.
And, I think getting that at a younger age kind of rolled into bad habits
Right.
getting older. So
Right.
if I was always the bigger kid, then that was never going to change, right?
Right.
So you might as well just be the bigger kid. And they always said bigger kids were always jolly, right? They're not. But you played that role too. So
Yeah.
you were able to kind of like hide a little bit.
Isn't that interesting how we do that? We kind of live into the perception of others, especially if we haven't been trained to see other possibilities.
Correct.
But your husband loved you as a big woman.
Yes, he was what we call a chubby chaser.
Yes.
And he liked the voluptuous woman. And I was very healthy. I was a healthy big girl.
Right.
But I wasn't a happy big girl.
Right.
So I had looked into having bariatric surgery. And, he wanted me to be healthy naturally. But he had some reservations. And lo and behold, I had the surgery done. And we just kind of parted ways.
So you were no longer had the same appeal for him.
Correct.
Quite interesting, isn't it? Because so many people think that, oh my God,
Oh, you lost weight and you laughed at. No, it wasn't. It was nothing like that. And it's funny how I was like, but nothing's changed. Like I haven't changed. I haven't changed as a person.
Was it devastating?
No, it wasn't actually. It was okay because I thought, go, because this is now for me.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
And then you worked as in the corrections department as a communications officer, yes?
Correct.
So what did that entail, and what was the challenge there for you?
Working midnights. I worked midnights. So I went in at 10 o'clock at night, and I would work till 6 a.m. in the morning.
And as a communications officer, what did you do?
Well, we were the eyes and the ears for the officers in the jail. We had allowed inmates in with the officers. We had to secure their weapons. Yet, if there was a code or what we call a panic button where an officer can't get to the microphone, they just hit a button. They're numbered 1 through 100, and we have to locate their number in a book, who the radio belongs to, where the person is at, and call a code. For instance, it would be Code Charlie Officer Powell's panic button activated. And that would deploy the other officers to that unit. And I was responsible for calling the codes, accessing the doors for the officers, and then securing them.
Wow.
So it was a very high pressure job where everybody else could really take it down a little bit at night. I couldn't.
Wow.
Because you had to listen all the time and be alert.
You know, it's so interesting. I'm going to segue to you, Brittany, and then I want to come back to your story, because from correction officer to airports is
still very important.
Yes, yes. So, Brittany, you know, you and I chatted before, and here you are, this fabulous makeup artist, and you've been working in the field of cosmetology and hair and makeup for a number of years. You're a single mom, but you started out as a singer.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
So ever since I can remember, when I was 2, 3, 4 years old, I was always into music. My dad, he plays a lot of instruments. He was in bands, things like that. So it's always been an outlet for me in creativity. And I started singing in a conservatory, mom's conservatory actually. And that brought me a lot of places. I was able to sing in front of a lot of Lincoln Center with big groups and be in plays. And it was that was all I loved. I eat, breathed, and slept music. I played piano for 10 years. My mom was fortunate enough to have me play piano because it was pretty expensive back then. So I was into music in high school. I ended up being in an a cappella group that was known for all around Monmouth County and all state choruses and things like that. So honestly, my whole life was music. So yeah.
And then you went to, for a summer, to Berklee School of Music in Boston.
Yeah.
And?
So that was super exciting. I look back at that and I always say, like, wow, it was probably one of the best times of my life. I had to be 16 years old, and my mother let me go for like the whole summer, 9 weeks or a little bit more than that. And I've never been away from home, and I lived in the dorms, and it was just a great program to just kind of even see if you wanted to A, go to that college, or B, if this is something that you're passionate about. And I absolutely loved it. I sang in the concert, like the big concert at the end of the season, which only a select few were allowed to. So that was a huge opportunity for me. And I made a lot of friends. And
so you thought, this is my life.
Yes, 100%.
This is my life going forward.
Absolutely.
So you come back and you decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And you apply.
Yes. So I applied to Berklee, and you would get credits for the program in the summer. So it was like a nice little step in the right direction. And I applied and I got in, which is, it was really hard for a lot of the other people. And I was like, wow, I'm so grateful. So that was like it. My whole senior year, I'm like, I'm going to Berklee, this is it. And then I had to have that real conversation with my parents and just say, you know, financially, we weren't able to do it. So our decision was, okay, how about you go to Brookdale for a little while and get your credits and be able to work towards your main classes, and then eventually work towards going to Berklee. And I thought that was a great idea. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And I ended up going to Brookdale, but it just wasn't for me. I think I tasted the great, amazing campus and just the vibe of the whole school. And Brookdale.
And now you're doing just basic, solid courses that have nothing to do with your passion. So, you know, on the one hand, that could be devastating. That could kind of go, oh, well, you know, that dream is over with.
Yeah.
And that's a choice. But interestingly enough, from what you tell me, you segued into another career, but you never fully gave up on the music. And also, you didn't segue into a career where you felt deprived or bitter about your experience. So talk a little bit about, you know, your next move.
So it was a little heartbreaking for me, and I said, you know, what is there something else that I like, that I want to try a trade, I want to try a skill, something that I know that I can always fall back on if music didn't work out for me. So I thought, I used to do my friend's hair and things like that, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try cosmetology school. I would really like that. So I spoke with my parents, and they said, I think that's a good decision for you to have something and a skill. And, you know, I was definitely upset about the whole music thing because it was my whole life. And so I ended up going to cosmetology school, and I got my cosmetology license. I looked long and hard for a job to find, because when you get into the field, you don't have a clientele. They just want you to be an assistant. And it was hard for me. And I needed to, I really didn't find my path in the beginning, because I was like a little lost in a sense. Like,
Yes.
I had something that I focused on my whole life, and then I'm trying something brand new. But I said, this is something I really want to do for myself, and I think I'll be good at it. So I ended up going to a salon that I knew of, and they took me right in, and I was able to get a chair and start my clientele. So, yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting for me is there are choices all along the way. Giving up, being bitter, blaming. But also there's something about the way that each of us operates that either opens other doors or closes those doors. So you went into a situation where typically they would ask you, you need to bring a clientele, you need this much experience, and yet there was something about you that caused that bypass. And that's one of the things I like people to take a look at. Like, how am I operating in life? As a coach, it's all about, how am I operating in life? What is it that I'm putting out there? Because we all know if you walk into a situation and what you're dragging with you is a bunch of bitterness and blame and, sorrow, whatever, that comes with you, whether you're speaking about it or not.
Absolutely.
So, Jennifer, I'm jumping back to you. So you're a corrections officer, you're in the correction facility.
Yes.
Then how did you get to Hairports?
Well, I always, like you, I like the creative aspect of my career, but with cosmetology, I got out of it when I married my current husband. He said, you need a pension, you need this, you need that, and I agreed with him. So I got out of it. Plus, I wasn't a big fan of cutting and coloring hair. It wasn't what I wanted to do. But being a cosmetologist, there's so many different facets in the cosmetology industry.
Yes.
Makeup, waxing, facial, all that. So I was able to pick and choose. Once I was in the jail, and somebody had came to me and said about a blow dry bar, and that's something that's the creative part that I like to do. I like to do the last minute quafting and, making people just,
look fabulous.
What they have,
what
they already have. And I said to my husband, I was interested in trying to do this, and I thought I had a different avenue than most other dry bars to say. And I thought it was something that I really wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do it. So I enrolled in community college at Mercer County Small Business Administration, and I took a class there, the Small Business Administration class. I had a wonderful professor. Her name was Carla Falone, excuse me. She was a genius. She pulled this idea out of me, and I really owe her everything that I created here.
Wow.
She said, you don't need to follow that path. Make your own. And I was just going to buy a franchise. And she said, you work all night long. And we weren't, when you work in a jail, you're not allowed to bring any mechanical devices. You're no cell phone, nothing that can contain Wi-Fi, nothing. So I really had to rely to pen and paper. And I asked my other officers, like, what do you think? And this and that. And we have female officers as well. So I was able to get a lot of rapport, feedback, and a lot of times people were so tired, there's a lot of stuff flew out of their mouths. But it was good. It was good stuff. And they thought it was corny and funny, but it really worked. And going to those classes, and this morphed out of that. And I opened up small inside a spa, and then it just grew. It really grew, and the idea has caught on, and we were able to get into Atlantic City Airport, and hopefully.
What's really great about that, it's like that expression, you hear it 100 times, and you go, but when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So it's like you can't bring equipment into the jail, and you're there all night, and you're grappling with the idea of what do I do next, and then you're taking this course, and you're exploring things. So instead of just sitting there and going, I have to wait till the morning, you reach out to everybody. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
Yes. It was a break from the norm. And, I don't know if anybody has ever, walked into a jail or a prison.
I worked in a jail for a while.
It takes all the light out of you.
Yes.
And you're not in jail. You
Right.
did nothing wrong.
Right.
But you're working there, and it dampens
The atmosphere is so
dreary.
Yes.
It's drab. And they used to say, you're like the Walmart greeter here. Welcome to the jail. You make it happy to be here. So it was nice, and it took a little break from the norm for them. And, they would call me from the unit, hey, what about the overhead compartments? Can we use that? And I was like, that's brilliant, So, and I really give them a lot of credit for helping me with this as well.
And people love to contribute. And
Yeah.
so when you reach out, it's so great on so many levels. So what is it about you? So you're working in the jail and you have a steady job, and what is it that had you reach for more? Why weren't you just satisfied to stay there?
Because I know this is destined for greatness.
Okay, I love it.
I just know with everything that I am, this is a winner. I think there was a reason why I waited until I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
And I think that everything that I had in my life that had happened to me built up to this point and created this platform for me. So I just feel like this was the time for me I have the confidence, I have the drive, I am secure with what my business plan is. People that don't even understand the business agree. And when you put it to work and you built that business plan and you have it in the airport and you see it working, I just feel like I can take on all the airports.
Wow. So now you have a location in Hamilton.
Correct.
Yes. And so people come in just to have their hair washed and styled.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have parties. We do business
I've been to one of
functions.
your parties.
Yes.
And I love the concept, with the outfits.
hair traffic controller.
Yes, hair traffic controller. And you've got gates in your place.
Correct.
So describe a little about the Atlantic City aspect.
The Atlantic City is a strict dry bar, so we don't do any washing there, but we are able to be deployed directly to the gate. So we have actual airline carts that have been converted into stations, and we wheel out to the gate, and we do braiding, curling, flat ironing. We'll do a blow dry,
So you just, when a plane is coming in, you sit there and wait, or?
Actually, when they're leaving, so when people go through security, we're beyond security. We're TSA approved.
Wow.
So we're beyond security, and people do certainly, when they get off the airplane, sometimes they want to be most flight attendants. So we take care of them, put it in a nice French twist, bun, something like that, and then they're able to start the rest of their day. So that's what we do. But it's neat because there's delays.
Yes.
And not everybody
People
wants
are waiting
to eat.
for planes. Yes.
Not everybody wants to drink.
Yeah.
And it's also a big stress reliever.
Yes.
So it works both ways. And it's really convenient.
Yeah. It's great. So I want to get back to you. So now you're working in a salon and you're cutting hair, and then you think, oh, I need to be even more creative, and you.
Yeah. So I thought makeup, and I never really wore a lot of makeup, but in cosmetology school I had done like a contest that they did, and I used 2 shadows, and I ended up winning first place, and I'm like, oh, maybe there's something behind that. So I ended up just getting myself together, hair and makeup done, and I went into a location that is a makeup brand, and I walked right in and she hired me on the spot. So I ended up doing part-time hair and part-time makeup. I ended working my way up the career ladder.
And this is MAC?
MAC Cosmetics. Part-time to full-time to assistant manager, and then to manager, all within like maybe 2.5, 3 years. So
it requires, if you're listening, what are the skills that you think it takes to do that kind of quantum leap? There's something about that has to be inside.
She was destined. She had drive to figure
Yes,
out
drive,
what she wanted.
yeah, and a willingness to keep looking this way and this way and this way. And like you said, oh, gee, I won this contest, so let me take it another step. It's the willingness to look at a next step.
And I think too, for me, it's when I get too comfortable, I'm not creating change, and I want to create change within myself and my family. So sometimes when I get too comfortable, I'm like, oh, what do I have to do something next. I have to do something more.
To disrupt my comfort.
Yes.
Do you know how many people spend their lives avoiding discomfort? And so for her, it's like, let me disrupt discomfort because I don't want just more of the same, more of the same.
Yeah. So I ended up working now for the company. 10 years actually is this month.
Wow,
so,
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I've had the opportunity to work in Fashion Week in New York City for 7 seasons now, 8 seasons. I've worked in Tribeca Film Festival, and it's brought me to a lot of great opportunities. I'm actually in a program right now through the company for facilitating and being a trainer eventually. So,
wow.
Yeah. And then down the line, I would love to open something myself, a makeup studio or a hair studio or something. And again, I appreciate your drive and what you're saying, because to me, it's like, okay, this is my next step. This is something that I'm going to do, and I know it's possible. So,
yeah. And, when we were chatting, I said to you, so what about the music? Because it's not that you have to go back, but it was a love and a passion, and it still exists. And you told me that you tried out for The Voice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how great is that? And then?
Yeah, so it was always in the back of my mind, like, let me just do something with music again. And, I was like, let me try out for The Voice. So it took me a couple seasons to actually get the will to do it. I hadn't been practicing. I hadn't really been doing music. So I was like, let me just go. So I ended up staying over my sister's house. She lives in New York. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And it was in the Jacob Javits Center. And I was so nervous. I mean, it was crazy. And I went in, and the experience in general was something I'll never forget. It was surreal. And he was just like, okay, here you go. And it's kind of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where they give you a ticket, like the golden ticket. He gave me the red sheet and was like, okay, you're on to the next level. And you walk out of the room and everyone sees you with the ticket, and they're like, oh, she got through, she passed. And that was like the most amazing feeling, because, I honestly hadn't done it in so long, but I knew I still had it in me. So, yeah.
And again, that's part of the whole thing, is sustaining that belief in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I still had it in me.
And it took a while for her to get out there, but she got out there.
Yes. And you're going to try again.
Yeah, so I made it to the second round. The second round was in New York City, where they kind of like this, had cameras all in front of you, and you're standing in the middle of the hot light, and you're trying to sing without being nervous. And it was great practice for me, and absolutely I'm going to go ahead and try it again, because I needed to just be in front of that and experience that to know what to expect for next time. So I'm ready. In July, I think they're going to do it again. So
it's like never giving up. This whole thing about, and for me, and I've, I said this a gajillion times, it's always frustrating for me to see people willing to settle for less than what's possible. And part of the time is, and I have empathy for it, it's not seeing what's possible. It's being stopped by, all your lack of self-worth or whatever it is. But, it's like everybody's got some potential. And I always share my favorite piece of graffiti. It was on a bathroom wall in a health food store in Massachusetts. And it said, you get what you settle for. Mm. And clearly you're unwilling to settle. So I'm going to ask you, what's the dream?
The dream for me is being a national name.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have my own pension for my employees.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have profit sharing. I would like to have a product line, a clothing apparel line. This isn't just a blow dry bar. This is going to be an empire. And I want to be able to take care of my family. It has nothing to do with making tons of money. Of course, I mean, who doesn't want to make tons of money?
Right.
When I was a young kid, my father said, you will never call me up and say, Dad, I just graduated from Wilford Beauty Academy. You will go to college and you will do this and you will do that. And that wasn't my path. Mm. That was not it. Mm-hmm. And when this whole thing came about, and my father was like, I think you have something now. Mm. I only want him to see that to fruition. So that is my drive. That is my force, and I'm going to make it happen. And I just can't wait for it. And they say that it takes a couple of years to do it. I see it now. I've been doing it for 3 years, and I see it. I see the visions.
That's
great. And that to me just is keeps me motivated
Yeah.
and going.
Yep.
But that's what I want. I want to be able to, and I also want to do something with moms, because I have a lot of single mothers that work for me, and I don't expect them. I think it's bad when you say, I can't come to work because my child's not feeling well. Are they not feeling well? And you want to, like, my employees don't want to stay home when their kid's not feeling well. And it's not that they're not feeling well and they're not good, but I give them the option of bringing their child in.
Yeah.
If they want to.
Yeah.
You don't have to miss it if you don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't mind.
Yeah. I'm going to have to stop
sorry.
you here, but I think that's fabulous.
I want to make
yes.
sure it's family.
And when I first got divorced, I worked for a company that was a family-owned business, and they understood about family, and you could do that. And boy, what a great thing that was as a single mom. What's the dream?
Well, I kind of want to obviously do the same thing. It was just my 30th birthday a couple months ago.
Wow,
So
a
yeah,
fledgling.
I know, a nice milestone for myself. So I feel like I'm in a really good place right now. With my daughter, she's going to be 4 years old. I want something more, and I feel like right now it's going to be having my own kind of same thing, my own makeup studio, and I really want to do freelance as well. So being a national freelance artist and working with different celebrities and just really giving the option to women, like, you can do this. Like, there's
Yes.
been a lot of things that has been in my past or things that I've had to get over, hurdles, but I'm here and I'm
what
happy.
An inspiration to your daughter.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big things about having you here is this whole idea. Everybody's had crap happen to them.
Yeah.
And some of it really horrific, and some of it just, oh my God, how come? And you don't ever want to make light of that. But at the same time, you're going to continue living anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you can reach for, even though it seems daunting and even though it seems sometimes impossible, so that you can expand and grow and thrive? And I love your commitment to teaching other women and inspiring other women. So we're at the end of our show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being who you are. And wow, I can't wait to see what you create.
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much.
us.
Thank you.
My name is Natasha Sherman. Thank you for joining us.